Well, we're going to go for a nice long walk, I think. Let me just stick this camera out the window so you can hear the robin. It's rather lovely, isn't it? Let's go for a walk. Whoa. Sticking all my gear on. There's the old camera go on my head. Do love this DJI Osmo Nano camera system. It's very good, very cool indeed. And the little mic mini, also by DJI. Well, it's a perfect combination. Let's switch over to this camera system. Then we're going to go for a very long walk. There we go, all connected up now. There's my Osmo Pocket 3, which is my main camera. Got Strava connected up. The only things I haven't got are my binoculars. Where are they today? Are they back there somewhere? Let me turn you off whilst that was easy. That was easy. Right. Have we got everything? Shall I take the dock thingy? Nah. Let's have faith in a little camera having enough juice in it to power the whole walk, or to record the whole walk. What I should do actually is bring in the camera that I put up outside. Not camera, the microphone. Right. Oh, hang on. I've got no glasses on. Can't see a thing. Sort of things you forget, eh? Sort of things you forget. Sorry, sort of things I forget. Right. Right, this is going to be a long walk. St Radigan's Path first, so I'm walking east at the moment. This is the Isle of Wight Undercliff, St Lawrence on the Isle of Wight. So I'm going to walk up St Radigan's Path. So go east, walk east towards St Radigan's Path, up St Radigan's Path, which is basically going north and up, and then turn west and go back as if I'm walking towards Knighton. Well, not as if I'm walking towards Knighton. I will be walking towards Knighton, then drop down Cripple path and then back onto this road, but over that way, obviously west, and walk east again back to where I put Flea the car, and maybe see some migrant birds on the way. But bird song will be better down here than it will be at the top, although we may hear some skylarks at the top. Because down here we've got the woodland birds, the woodland and shrubland birds, i.e. birds you get in your gardens and in woodlands. And up there we'll have open plains, open grasslands type birds, such as skylark and meadow pipit, linnet, yellowhammer. So that second set of species, the open grassland species, are what we normally call farmland birds. But of course they're not really farmland birds. They're just birds that lived in open grassy, shrubby habitats. Then humans came along with their agriculture and plonked farming onto the habitat that those species used to live in. And the species were adaptable. They were elastic in terms of their habitat requirements, and farming created habitat very similar to the grassland. So cattle grazing, sheep grazing, bit of cultivation, bit of ploughing, bit of arable. And that mixture of different farming type habitats suited those species. Some of those populations went up. So some of the species that were already in open grassland, shrubby habitats, rather than woodlands, the numbers of those species increased with farming. So farming actually benefited some of those species, but other species declined. So things like bustards, great bustard and little bustard, kind of don't do so well in farming, especially more intensive farming. Whereas species like yellowhammer do very well, as long as it's not too intensive. So that's where humanity creates habitat out in the open countryside that birds like. And down here, similar process. You'd have had woodland, or you have woodlands and you have open shrubby wood pasture in nature. Then humans come along and plonk houses in, and suddenly you've got gardens, which is very similar to the woodland stroke scrubby habitat that those woodland scrubby species enjoy. And so those species benefit from or survive in those gardeny type habitats that have replaced the shrubby open woodland. Right, we're going up St Radigan's path. Phew. I'm going to be out of breath. Did I turn Strava on? An excuse to stop. Oh, I don't think I did. No. Glad I checked. Because it was just an excuse to stop and catch my breath. I'm getting very old. So you have to bear with me. These walks will become increasingly huffy and puffy for me, which is fine. Just means the narration might slow down a little bit. Although if my hero, Sir David Attenborough, can do commentaries and narrations in his hundreds, what is he now, 101, 102? I think he went over his 100th birthday. If he can still do it, then so can I. Although he's not trying to traipse up St Radigan's path. I'm sure he was in his middle ages. Phew. Lovely old wild clematis. Old man's beard. Been having a bit of a think lately, so I'm just finishing off the project I've been doing in Dorset, and I've been setting up wildlife projects and a little charity to work in the UK on, species reintroductions, red-billed chough, red-backed shrike, and species recoveries, cell buntings, that kind of stuff. But I was just thinking, well, I've got a limited time left on this planet, and what I really want to be doing, if the truth be known, is projects in the tropics. Now I know everyone will say you should focus your efforts at home, but I think I'm a nomad, I'm a citizen of the world, citizen of planet Earth, and I do love the tropics. I do love Southeast Asia especially, but also the tropical Andes, Colombia, Ecuador, those kind of areas. And in Southeast Asia, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos. Malaysia. They're my spiritual home really, especially Southeast Asia. So I'm going to slide the old, don't know, what am I trying to say? I'm going to reduce the time spent on UK stuff and increase the time spent on tropical stuff. So I'd already, what are they down there? Are they gulls or are they? Yeah, they are gulls. I was thinking they might be cattle egrets for a minute. Slide the ruler. So a little bit more time spent thinking about tropical rainforest birds. And a little bit less time spent thinking about UK stuff. Now that may disappoint my viewers. Still the same lifestyle, so I'll still be in the UK most of the time. Well, I'll be here every summer. It's lovely skylarks singing there. Might just be able to hear them. Yeah, still plenty of time in the UK, but also spending more already know that I'm going to be spending 6 weeks to 2 months in the tropics during our winters going forward. But it'll also mean I'll be thinking and talking a bit more about Southeast Asia and what I'm doing there, the projects I'll be developing and working on. So I hope that doesn't disappoint anybody. But I only live once. I don't know how many more decades I've got of doing this. So that is the decision. Right. So I'm not going to go down there to check on the yellowhammers. I'm going to go down this way. Bearing in mind, this camera on my head only has a certain amount of battery life in it. So we want to make sure we get as much of this looping walk in as possible. Be a good test of it to see if we can get it all in. So on my Strava I'm basically timing as well as mapping the route. So we can work out how long it lasted for if we had 3 or so minutes. Goldfinches, on to the beginning. Phew. No yellowhammers singing this morning. There's one territory here. Oh yeah, I can hear a yellowhammer. And there's I thought there was one perched up there, but I think there was actually, but it's just flown off as I lifted my binoculars. Anyway. What a beautiful morning. So the old sheep grazing that was done on here, just to recap, this is basically a meadow or chalk grassland that the farmer has created. It was arable about 2 decades ago, up until about 2 decades ago. It's been reverted to grassland. And it's been turning into nice, flower-rich chalk grassland with lots of yellow rattle. But it wasn't being grazed, so this spring the farmer has actually put the sheep on here, enclosed by this electric fencing. And the structure is absolutely wonderful at the moment. The sheep are off, they're over on the stubble fields over there. So I'm kind of hoping he'll keep the sheep off now for the summer, because he's got the structure just perfect for skylarks and meadow pipits. And it'll be interesting to see how the wildflowers respond, how it will look this summer. I will be videoing it a lot, see how it develops. And also see if the skylarks, because there's some tussocks there, it's not tightly grazed, it's kind of a mosaic, which is exactly what you want really, or exactly what people like me want, and exactly what skylarks want. There's a yellowhammer singing. Right, onwards we go. So yeah, skylarks, excuse me, skylarks obviously nest on the ground, and they like tussocks when it's in grass, and when it's in arable they nest on the arable soil surface underneath the crops. So like spring barley, that kind of stuff, spring sown crops are brilliant for skylarks, because the crop is kind of quite open and short in kind of May, June time, which is the peak of when they're raising chicks. But equally they like the tussocks in grassland, but they like mosaics. So these tussocks that the farmer has left could potentially house a skylark or two by May. They're above us, they're singing, as is the yellowhammer. And meadow pipits may move from the rough grass here back onto here this summer if the farmer doesn't graze it anymore. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, this one. It's a year when everything comes together in terms of the game plan for putting in place a sustainable income, sustainable lifestyle, which means earning enough from my book writing and YouTube channels and some other little side hustles, earning enough to sustain me without the need to get employment as such. So running my own little businesses, so I'm the boss. Total flexibility in terms of where I am from one day to the next. Enough income to get a decent van and maintain and run a decent van. Ah, man. I do love these early morning walks. Did I say what the time was? Time now is 7:05. So we're at the very beginning of bird migration, really. Everything coming back north, out of Africa. And little migrant birds come into the Undercliff. They're obviously coming up from the south, heading north. They hit the Undercliff down there, and during the day, through the day, they work their way up, gradually working their way north to fatten up, eat lots of food after they've crossed the English Channel, and they get concentrated along this edge up the top here. We've got loads of cover down there, loads of trees, shrubs, good habitat there. Then as soon as they get here, they're faced with an open, pretty bleak from their point of view landscape. So they hang out here and they feed all day basically along this edge. And later in the day the sun is over there, so this is all lit up and sunny and warm. So the best time to walk along here is kind of midday onwards, really, because by that time, oh, there's a bird up there. By that time, they're all concentrated along here. And you get red starts and loads of chiff-chaffs and white throats and lesser white throats. Flycatchers, spotted flycatcher and pied flycatcher, both of them in good numbers on some mornings. So once I've finished that job in Dorset, I'm going to be doing more walks throughout the day rather than just early morning walks. And I can walk along places like this after midday and look for migrant birds and create videos whilst I'm doing it. What a cool job that would be, eh? I say a job, it's not really a job, it's an income generating hobby. Maybe that's what we should all strive for. income generating hobbies rather than jobs. There's a thought, there's a way of reframing one's life, isn't there? I'll have to do a video on that. I'm going to send myself a note. Send myself a note. Income. Ooh. Generating hobbies. Right. Well, it's a beautiful morning, but not seeing any migrant birds along here this morning. But as I was saying, it's a bit early. Love the blackthorn coming into flower. It'll be buzzing with insects again after about midday. Tell me in the comments section if you live in a vehicle, hello wood pigeons, if you live in a car or a van, and what income generating activities you get up to keep it sustainable. Are you employed? Lots of van dwellers have employment, which is wicked, same as me at the moment. Or do you have little side hustles, your own businesses, and what are they? It'd be great to get some ideas together. So I've got YouTube, book writing, dog walking as a very minor source of income. Going to do some wildlife walks, experiment with that, do a little tester. Right, we're coming up to High Hat, which is the high point along here. I was going to bring the drone up, but of course I forgot to recharge it after last night's lovely drone flight. What's that down there? So we're on High Hat now, which is the high peak, the summit above St Lawrence Old Park, above the landslip. Yeah. Let us carry on. This is definitely the right direction to walk. Walking west on a morning like this. So in the afternoon I'd do it from the other direction. I'd walk west initially and then come up Cripple path and walk back this way. Head east because of the sunlight. So we're not getting the sun in our eyes going this way. We will be in a minute when we drop down back onto Undercliff Drive. But at the moment we're good. Just make sure the camera's on. Oh, can you see me? Yes, you can. Wow, what a lovely day. Actually, let me check those jackdaws and that down there. Make sure there's not a chuffing amongst them. No, just jackdaws. Always got to check, because one of these days there will be. Oh, there's a skylark. Incredibly well camouflaged in the grass. I didn't bring the big camera again. I should have done. That's rather lovely. So there used to be 2 skylarks. I wonder if they're nesting in this margin that the farmers put in. Really brilliant margin. What would you say that is, 8 metres? This margin is brilliant because it's a strip of wildflowers basically along the cliff top, which is really good from a wildlife point of view. You've now got this kind of a juxtaposition of shrubby habitat on top and grassy habitat on top, or at the edge here, plus this margin, which is tussocky, flower-rich grassland, and then the arable. And those 3 habitats, the shrubby habitat, the grassy habitat, and the cultivated arable habitat, put them all together and you're making some species very happy, like yellowhammers and cell buntings if they recolonise, when they recolonise. All sorts of species love this kind of interface of those different elements. So in summer, the yellowhammers, to take one example, will be nesting low down in the scrubby area, in the shrubs, in the grass, where the grass hits the shrubs. That's where the yellowhammer nest will be. And the adults will hop out into this grassland and collect invertebrates. If there's cell buntings, they'll collect lots of grasshoppers later in the summer. But then in winter, the yellowhammers will be spending the winter out on the stubble fields. And it's spring cropping here because it's so stormy. And spring cropping basically means the stubble is left over winter for the birds. Right, now, this is a good edge for migrant birds here. It's becoming more scrubby than it should be. It needs to be broken up, this corridor scrub. It was very open. The rabbit population has been decimated and hasn't recovered at all. This used to be full of rabbits along here, but now they're completely gone, and that is one reason why the scrub has really got going. Destroying the SSSI habitat along the cliff top. Now this will offset it to some extent, having this grassy margin, but it's not the same as the original chalk grassland by any means. But you can restore the original chalk grassland along the cliff top by cutting holes in the scrub and having open areas. But then you question the sustainability of it, given there's no grazing animals, no rabbits. They used to maintain the habitat. Obviously this used to be sheep downland. All of this would have been grassland. Don't know how long it's been arable for. But back in the day when there were sheep along here, they would have grazed the top and kept it open, and good from a wildlife point of view. I mean, this is good from a wildlife point of view, this scrubby corridor, but it's grown over and destroyed what was an even more valuable habitat, or an even rarer, more species-rich habitat, arguably, which is chalk grassland. So to find a balance, there's a dog walker along there. It's unusual. So I'm not hearing any yellowhammers along here, and I'm not hearing any cell buntings either, which is very disappointing, because this is superb habitat along here for cell bunting and yellowhammer. In theory, just by looking at it. Of course, the birds themselves will tell us whether that's true or not by either recolonising or not. Lots of wood pigeons. Wonder if this dog is friendly. Soon find out, I guess. It's seen me, as the owner noticed. Probably not. Looks like a friendly dog. It's not said anything yet. It's not barked. No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, me too. Oh, yeah. I thought he was just blanking me, but he was actually very focused on the ground. I do that a lot. So, what's the time? 19 minutes past 7. So the only reason I'm rushing along here a little bit is camera, the life of the camera, but I bet you we're going to get back to Flea with plenty of life left. So this junction just down here tends to have yellowhammers. When we were doing the cell bunting reintroduction feasibility study and meeting farmers, this was one of the main areas where they could be released. That reintroduction is not going to happen now because they're hopefully going to recolonise pretty quickly. I want to go down this way a little bit, go through the gap there that the tractor uses. Unfortunately, his herbicides have gone into the verge a bit too much here. That's not good. Yeah, don't want these hedgerows and margins sprayed out by the farmer. That's not, well, it's illegal basically. Can't hear any yellowhammers. Surprising. Right, we're very close to Cripple Path now, which goes down the cliff, back into the Undercliff. Goldfinches. So many goldfinches these days. Their populations, or my perception is, their numbers have really gone up. Pretty sure that's true. There's St Catherine's Down up there with the old oratory. I think that's what it's called, an oratory. Just above Black Gang, where I often park overnight. Last night I parked down where I got out the car. Second night in a row I've been back in Flea overnight. Am I walking straight past Cripple Path? There's normally a little path that goes inwards here somewhere. Trying to remember where it goes. Yeah, second night I've been in the car rather than in the room. It's felt so good to be back. Here it is, here's a little path that goes in. So if you go this way, there used to be a sign here, I thought, pointing you to Cripple Path. So peaceful. Long may the south of the Isle of Wight remain this peaceful, this devoid of humanity. Just one dog walker along quite a long stretch of really good quality footpath. It's lovely. It's where we get to Cripple Path and discover it's closed, because Island Roads will be doing something pointless there. There will be red kites nesting here soon with any luck. Oh, yellowhammer. Here somewhere. Maybe there's a territory along here somewhere. There's a chiff chaff. Right, so Cripple Path should drop down just here somewhere. There are you all. There it is. Path closed. What are they talking about? Path is definitely not closed. So a quick look before we go down Cripple Path. Okay, so it's just that little section, so the path carries on around here. You don't need a sign like that saying path closed. You just need to point people up here. In fact, is it part of the public footpath? So the coastal path goes along here. So why is there a path closed sign there? Because a little section of it here has clearly fallen away in the distant past and been closed off, and they've left the flipping closed path closed sign. Why don't they now clear it up, remove it? Because people will just go around there onto what is clearly the coastal path. Utterly pointless rubbish in the countryside from Isle of Wight Council. Utterly typical. So if you want to see one of the most incompetent, pointless, non-existent councils in England, come to the Isle of Wight. I'm being a little bit mean. Island Roads are the worst part of the Isle of Wight Council, and they're the contractor, and that'll be their responsibility. Island Roads, they would have abandoned the Isle of Wight Council, abandoned it, put it out to contractors, so now they can just say, oh, it's Island Roads' fault. Right, Cripple Path. I've never been down this bit. People clearly do go down there. This is the big green sand, I think it's lower green sand, rock hard, where the choughs used to nest on these cliffs. Oh. Not been down here for probably 2 years since I last went down here. In my manic birding days, before I did any kind of YouTube, I walked millions of miles on these paths several times a week. Sadly, none of it was videoed. It's pretty cool, isn't it? Sat on that bench enjoying the view, which is now obscured many, many times. It's a nice little ledge just up there. Oh, look at the primroses. That's beautiful. So yeah, we're now dropping back down into the Undercliff on Cripple Path. We'll get onto Undercliff Drive in a minute. There's a little kind of small holding nursery type thing just down here, which is all rather pretty. canopy is a bit more open here than I remember. A couple of trees have come down. Actually, they've got saw marks on them, so they've been sawn down, chopped down, probably ash trees, ash dieback. That one's leaning over a bit. That's is that like a beech, or yeah, it's a beech tree, this big one that's leaning over. What's beech? Carpina speculus, is that right? Is that beech? Don't know. Look it up in Google, people, and tell me in the comments section what the Latin name of beech is. Might be Carpina speculus. Might be making that up because Betula pendula is silver birch, I think. Carpinus might imply a pine. Maybe that's Scots pine, I don't know. Tell me in the comments section what the Latin name of European beech is. Oh, look at that, that's nice. Really see the green sand. Hello, Wren. Really see the cliff face there. I'd love to get some wild cattle down here, grazing in the Undercliff. It's one project we are actually discussing with Natural England as a possibility. As part of my too many in number England projects. When I should be doing more tropical projects. Right, we are now properly down in the Undercliff, back on Undercliff Drive. And we're going to walk east now into the sun. Lovely chaffinch singing. Do love to hear chaffinch back. Their numbers dropped dramatically in Undercliff for a few years, but they've made a very welcome return. Anyway, let's head back along the Undercliff Drive, going east. Listen to some bird song as we're walking. Felt quite giddy when I was up the top there, when I was at High Hat. I kind of almost stumbled, felt lightheaded. I'm really bad with heights. And that's why I never get too close to the cliff top, but I did get slightly too close there. And I felt really lightheaded and almost stumbled down, which could have been interesting. What I don't want to do on one of my videos is fall off High Hat, because I probably won't make it out alive. Nobody will find me apart from anything else. I suppose I could send Strava a distress message via Strava, which would have me mapped where I am. If there's any reception, there's no reception right here. So if I fell down the cliff top there, into this scrub, I don't think I'd ever be found. There's a thought. So yeah, that was a potential disaster. I didn't mention it at the time because I felt, well, that's a bit silly of me. Don't know what that bird was there. This used to be a little small holding here. There's still the buildings all overgrown now. All change. Oh yeah, what's this little thing? Is it a marking stone, a milestone or something? Is it a wellhead? I can't remember. It's got a date on it, 1892, 25th of February 1892. There's a jar there with daffodils. FGB, what does that mean? Is it commemorative stone of some sort? Tell me in the comments section if you know what that is. Lovely great tit there, calling. Several blackcaps singing. So kind of ancestrally, if that's the right way to put it, there would have been aurochs, wild cattle, European wild cattle aurochs, working their way as herds through these open woodlands. They were driven, the wild version were driven to global extinction by humans. Aurochs was basically a species of wild cattle that used to live across Europe. We drove them to extinction, but their genes and their basic character lives on in domestic cattle. So those cows you see grazing on fields, they're the result of breeding from wild cattle. So native species, wild cattle, bulls, heifers, whatever the females are called, used to roam as a wild animal across the British countryside, including through here. Yeah. So we can't bring aurochs back because they're extinct. Aurochs are extinct. But we can allow cattle to go wild and become more like their wild ancestor. Yeah, if you go to Southeast Asia, if you go to India especially, you can see wild cattle. You can see banteng and gaur, which are two surviving wild cattle species. They're not domestic animals, they're fully wild animals. We used to have one of those called aurochs that used to roam across Europe. So part of rewilding is to bring back aurochs. We can't do that because they're extinct, but you can turn cattle wild, and you can do some back breeding back. So you can try and replicate more closely the wild aurochs by selectively breeding domestic cattle, so they re-express their more wild traits, their looks, their structure, their heft, their size. So aurochs were bigger, muscular, less docile species. All that kind of size and musculature and all that was bred out of them. This is interesting. What's this water thing here for? Some sort of piped water supply going up into here. Wonder what that's all about. Somebody clearly has plans. So yeah, they're called Taurus cattle, the wild wilded domestic cattle. So we'll probably see in the UK rewilding projects adopting Taurus cattle. Currently, because they're not really available, currently we tend to use things like longhorn cattle, so domestic cattle that are rare breeds or traditional breeds, hardy breeds of domestic cattle, which are a bit closer to oryx in terms of behaviour, but not size. Oryx were bigger. I'm running out of puff, so I'm going to stop talking so much and let you enjoy the bird song. Can't remember what building this is. It's not Mirables, I don't think. Maybe it is. Strava's not going to tell me, I don't think, because I'm not... yeah, it's not labelled where I am. .9 miles so far we've walked. Ooh, look at that, there's been a cliff fall just up here. Can't really see it from here, but a big chunk of the chalk cliff has fallen down. It's interesting. Very loud song thrush. Wow. 7:43 a.m. So what I need to do is try to run down the Bluetti as much as possible so I can do a test. 0% battery in the Bluetti. See if I can fully recharge it today with the sun. This road is cracking here. It's really opening up again. I fear there's going to be a fresh landslip here at some point. What's that? There he is. It's a jay up there. They've got the most amazing song jays have when they do burst into song. A few videos ago there was a mystery bird singing near here. It turns out it was this pair of jays. That's what we settled on, and there they are. Look at that chough nesting habitat. Marvellous. Great tit. Lovely great tit. Teacher, teacher. If you hear a bird doing that, a variation on teacher, 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 it'll be a great tit. In fact, if you hear a song you can't recognise, it's probably a great tit. Probably isn't, but you never know. Been a bit of a bad boy going in here. You're not allowed in here. I'm going to get so much in trouble. Ooh. There, what a lawbreaker, eh? There's an oak tree. If I noticed that before, it's not even an oak. No, it's not an oak, it may be a plane tree. Going by that bark. It's either a sycamore or a plane tree. Not sure, I think it is actually a plane, a London plane. But I might be wrong. Certainly not an oak. People plant all sorts in their gardens, so you can never be sure, unless you actually know what you're talking about, which I don't. When it comes to anything other than a few native trees and shrubs. Do love this wild clematis. Old man's beard. Another slightly odd sign. This is no longer a road, it's a cycleway, and the road ahead is actually open. So that little sign said road ahead closed. Well, it isn't, because if you get beyond this little stretch of cycleway, the road is indeed open. I think what they mean is this little section of what used to be the road is no longer here. But you don't need a road ahead closed sign. It's patently obvious that there's no longer a bit of road here. What's that there? Is that a carrion crow? Nice. Yeah, thank you for... Can't remember, is it Robert? I can't remember. I think it was Robert who suggested I do this loop walk. Not done this one in a long time. I think I have got a video of this walk done previously on the channel, but I can't, not 100% sure. Right, I'm not going to go down there. Although I do have time, I just don't have the energy. Going to head back to Flea. Just slowly walk along this section. There's a jay again, making a funny sound. It's the same pair. There they go, a pair of jays. Love them. The most colourful corvid crow species we have in the UK, closely followed by red-billed chough. They're pretty funky as well. So whereas the rooks just go bleh, and the old carrion crows go rah, and the old ravens go oink oink, jackdaws go choo choo, whatever they do. Jays have an incredibly intricate song. Lots of cackles and beautiful fluty notes. The jay song is amazing. And magpies also have a really nice song. Colt it up here. No red squirrels this morning. That's unusual. Usually see one scuttle over the road. Very nice.